You're listening to WCOM LP 103.5 FM Carborough and Chapel Hill. It's a Tuesday, it's 5 o'clock, and that only means one thing. It's time for another round of Snarky Faith with your host, Stuart Deloney. This is a space where we irreverently wrestle through life, culture, and spirituality, all with our heads in the clouds, our tongues in our cheeks, our hearts in our sleeves, and our feet on the ground. At Snarky Faith, the questions or even the answers are never the point. It's all about the conversation. So here's your host, Stuart Deloney.
And we're going to say Merry Christmas again because we live in the United States and it's called Christmas. And under the last administration, you couldn't say Merry Christmas. If you said Merry Christmas, honestly, they looked at you like you had 3 eyes.
I mean, it's like so true. They looked at you like you had like 3 eyes. Like most of the time when I talk, people, they look at me like I have 3 eyes because, you know, my name's Eric. And in the past, like, you know, you really couldn't say Merry Christmas. But this year I want to have a good Christmas because I've been a good boy. I want lots of chocolates and lots of sweets. I don't want any of this Happy Halloween food here. I just want Christmas food. Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. Oh, is right. That was our big boy Eric Trump speaking at I think it was North Carolinian evangelicals for Trump. Ooh, Eric knows how to just raise the roof and get a crowd going because apparently that's foreplay for evangelicals. We can say Merry Christmas again. Oh, ooh, I felt a little tingle in a naughty place. We're already off to that kind of a show. And yes. But a real quick side note here, and I'm just going to go ahead and warn you, this is kind of a just total pop culture nerd side plot, tiny nugget of information that probably really will only be amusing me. I do throw these in from time to time in the show. I usually don't preface it this much. And I probably already ruined the joke here. It's not even really a joke. Well, fine. It's not really a joke, but here's how it goes. Hey, guys, I think they should play this clip every time before Eric Trump speaks, because this is kind of what I hear in my head. Cue soundbite from the 1980s movie, Mac and Me. You either know it or you don't, so the sooner you indulge me, the quicker I stop. So, yes, basically, I just want a little kid from an 80s or 90s really terrible knockoff movie to scream, Eric, no, stop, every time before he speaks. Sorry, don't worry. I'm on my meds today, so you know everything's gonna be A-okay. So, before we get too much into the crazy, because there's a lot of crazy to start the show off, I am going to give you a sneak peek somewhere near the middle part of the show today, so you can figure out around what time that is if you're a fan of this human that I'm about to mention that we had an interview with here on our show. So yes, so about midway through the show, kind of the belly button section of our show, we'll be having Matthew Distefano, author, provocateur, etc. He'll fill in the blanks for what all the etc. parts are. So yes. So we have that in store for us moving into our show. So before we get to the why Stuart is feeling a little crazy today, let's get to the housekeeping. So hey, you've hung around for at least 4 minutes into this craziness, and you're a new listener. So hey, if you kind of like this show, or if you kind of like where this thing's going, this broadcast and every other podcast before it can be found anywhere that you find podcasts. If you want more information from us, you can go to our website, www.snarkyfaith.com. Email me, questions@snarkyfaith.com. You can say stuff you love, stuff you hate, call us heretics or idiots or whatever you want. Haha, because it's America. You can do that. And because it's America, I'll repeat it on the air, because it's just that fun. But if you are a new listener, I say welcome to Snarky Faith. It's a place where we're going to have a lot of fun talking about the insanity of Christianity, but we're going to have healthy amounts of
sarcasm.
And you'll probably hear a little bit of this too. As long as you're cool with that, let's get on our way. And actually, by the way, if you're not cool with that, why are you still listening? I'm really worried about you and really what proceeds to make you continue to sit here, even though you're not cool with that. Okay, onward to why. Why? Why Stuart is crazier this week than normal weeks. Not necessarily for the show, though in my own mental space. We'll be speaking about my own mental space. Hopefully the show won't be that chaotic. So the purpose of this show is oftentimes to be able to point out the insanity of Christianity so we can kind of really then have a good conversation about, hey, this may be nuts, but what did Jesus say about this? That guy, not so nuts. But this week, plenty o' nuts. So here's a little chocolate-covered Whitman sample of the nuts. And first article I'm just going to throw out here, just as, for examples, kind of whetting the appetite here. This is from the free thinker over at Patheos. The article called "The Doomsday Terror Suspect Applies Access for Online Church Services." Yes, I'm going to just go ahead and read this. This is just beautiful and crazy. After a Christian couple in Northern Ireland, Robert James Templeton and his wife, Natasha, listened to a sermon that urged churchgoers to stock their cupboards in preparation for a potential doomsday scenario. They allegedly went out to buy large quantities of chemicals, which the police believed were for making homemade explosives. Because, far right, love of God and blowing shit up is kind of the way that I don't even know why all that makes sense, but it does. And literally, that's not the most adorable part of this article. So here's what happened. So the police who raided Templeton's home last year also found swords, knives, axes, balaclavas, which I had to look up because at first when I read it, I was like, they found a bunch of baklava. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. I'll take some. No, balaclavas. You know what that is? I had to look it up because I'm dumb. It's a ski mask. So yeah, they had ski masks. But it sounds way more fancy, like it's some sort of medieval device. But it's a ski mask. Walkie-talkies and books entitled U.S. Army Improvised Munitions Handbook. So the discovery led to an arrest of the couple, who are now out on current bail. They're on bail for terror charges. And they're in the news once more because why? Well, they had a request to access church services on the internet. Their bail says they can't go online and they can't get their hate church. What are they going to do? How are they going to live without angry God? I don't know. They can't even make their munitions. They can't listen to their God. How are they going to know how to hate? I don't even know. I just love that. They just couldn't get enough. They need more. They need to, yeah. So, hey, but you know what? I make fun of the Christian crazy every week here, and this is over there in Northern Ireland where they know a little more about homegrown terror than we do here, so maybe they've got a head start on the Christian crazy way before we do. Sorry to my Irish listeners. I just went off the rails with that one. It was an IRA reference, and there really are no good IRA jokes. IRS jokes, yes. IRA, no. Well, I do recall one that kind of went a little like this. An American was driving from Dublin to Northern Ireland. At the border, a group of IRA members... I'm going to just stop there. I'm bad at that. Okay, at the border, a group of IRA members surrounded his car, and the leader approached them. The leader asked, Protestant or Catholic? Startled, the American thought quickly and said, actually, I'm non-denominational. The IRA leader thought for a while and said, so, that would be Catholic non-denominational or Protestant non-denominational? Ho, ho, ho! Church jokes. But this other story is kind of the American, let's just go ahead and say, the Deep South American. Because it starts like this. CBS News had reported this. So the sheriff of an Arkansas Delta County has resigned under pressure after recording a man identifying as him, delivering a racist rant that went viral. The Arkansas County Sheriff Todd Wright resigned Friday at the request of the county's quorum court, and the Pine Bluff commercial reported a 5-minute audio recording that circulated on Facebook this week. It circulated him using the N-word in as loving of a way that white people use the N-word. Yeah. Usually because when they use that just means they're an ignorant bigot, because they are. But here's the silver lining, because this totally exonerates this man, Sheriff Todd Wright. He defended himself by saying this: I'm a Christian man. I read the Bible every day. I'm by no means a racist. And that video does not show a true picture of me. And he blames his poor behavior on the devil because he can't be a racist because he's a Christian man. He's a good Christian man that doesn't. Yeah, I read my Bible every day, and you know one thing why the devil did it? I'll tell you exactly why the devil did it. Because Jesus, I've read the Bible. I read it every day. Jesus doesn't say the N-word. I don't hear him say it once. I mean, if Jesus said the N-word, then I could use it, and it wouldn't be a sin. But since I read the Bible, and they didn't use the N-word in the Bible, it must be the devil that did it, because, Jesus. Yes, Jesus. And that aptly brings us to our ongoing segment, the Christian Crazy of the Week. So here we go.
Lord have mercy. The Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want.
So that brings us to the Christian Crazy, which this week I'm going to title this Stuart's Mom's Edition. Now, in many ways, if this is kind of old, like, playground talk, it sounds like I'm making fun of my mom. I wouldn't. Wait, I actually would. Okay, yes. So Stuart's Mom's Edition here is the fact that Stuart a couple days ago. Wait, hold on. Anyone out there deal with crazy family members? People that have succumbed to Trump sanity, that believe in the QAnon and I don't know anything else a lot. Yeah, people that are just out. Yeah, red hat people. Those people. Yeah. My mom apparently is one of those people. I knew she was kind of a closeted, like, conservative, because she is a conservative and she just doesn't. She's only offensive to family. I'll put it like that. Yeah, she's generally a nice person to the general audience. If you know her personally and you're part of her family or you're directly related to her, that's a whole different story. So generally to the public, my mom's a nice, normal, kind of weird, but all right woman. Okay. But from years of being around crazy Christianity, what I believe is a person that has succumbed to paranoia and gullibility. Yes, all together, like at once. And it's kind of a interesting thing to see. So already, most of us are kind of living in a very, like, I don't know, we all know the world's kind of effed up right now, and we're kind of just living in it. It's like this week, in many ways, has kind of made me feel like there's a line from an REM song, I'm not sure from how long ago, but it goes something like this, like that someone has pulled me up and out of cartoon quicksand. And it kind of feels like we're living in cartoon quicksand right now. Like we're seeing problems happening around us. We're seeing things like solutions being able to be around us, but we're also seeing a bunch of idiots out there. So, yes, so I'm having one of my, hey, check in to make sure my parents aren't dead during the COVID conversations with my mother on the phone. And, like, I start hearing kind of like Fox News, like, talking points. And I'd also mentioned that my mom is very gullible, so she doesn't not really understand my sarcasm. She's been around it long enough, never really understood it. So she begins to talk about who we're voting for the election, and it goes as well as you think. Because she felt really good that her and my father were going to be voting for Trump. And then I throw the stinger at her because I'm just that much of a little stinker that, hey, you know that like Miriam and I are not voting that way. So we're going to cancel you out. And my oldest son, James, is now old enough to vote this year. And James will actually thrust it in the right direction for our family. Hooray! It didn't go that well. I was being a jerk. But, anytime that you hear your mom drop the word casually drop the word George Soros in a conversation, you know you have gone wrong. You know that we are living in Trump's America. Some of us are. The rest of us are living in the hellscape of Trump's America. The rest of us are in our own little weird bubbles in our brains. Right. And so that's giving you a little bit of the background of Headspace, because this, I don't know how I missed this. This is from the Christian Post. This is just a great way to kick this off. Christian crazy as it gets. This is back from August 18th from an article in the Christian Post entitled, Trump says he spoke to God about economy and believes God will help him rebuild it again. So this is literally, I'm just going to quote this and we can laugh because Yeah. They begin the article, President Trump revealed he spoke to God about the economy amid the coronavirus pandemic, and God told him he's going to have him rebuild, quote, the greatest economy in the history of the world again. I love it. I love it because we know it's God because God's using the vernacular that Trump uses. I'm pretty sure that I know God, and God would really give two craps about the greatest economy in the history of the world. But let's just keep going because this is all true, right? So Trump revealed this. You know what this is? That's right. That's God testing me, Trump explained. He said, this is Trump saying God said, he said, you know, you did it once. And I said, did I do a great job, God? I'm the only one who could do it. And he said, that you shouldn't say. Now we're going to have to do it again. I said, okay, I agree. You got me, but I did it once, and now I'm doing it again. And you see the kind of numbers we're putting up. They're unbelievable. Best jobs ever, 3 months more jobs in the past 3 months than ever before. And numbers and best and most and big and words and things and numbers and doing good stuff and God says and all. Yeah. It's like word salad, but Trump doesn't like word salad. So verbal diarrhea, it kind of smells like that's kind of the okay, yes, because Trump said God said he did a good job on building a good big economy, and God cares about big economy, and God wants big economy built. God wants that now. Yes, yes, yes. Because again, God is a caveman envisioned by Trump, who already is an orange caveman. Apologize to orangutans out there. He's probably the worst of your breed. And actually, if you want an excuse to go out and vote, really listen to like these next two clips here on the Christian Crazy. We poke fun of these because these people are literally insane, but they have a following, and they profess to be voices within, that's the best I can say. They are voices within the Christian world. They have a voice and they profess to be Christian. But yeah, if you need a reason to go out and register to vote, you should, because this stuff, this craziness should lead you towards action. Now, this is Mark Taylor. Mark Taylor is known as the firefighter prophet. Mark Taylor is off his rocker as much as you would think. I mean, he's so off his rocker, he's probably respected in Christian circles. It's that kind of good. It's that kind of good that we have here. So Mark Taylor is really worried about mind control that's happening during protests. Yes. It's a thing. And here's Mark Taylor. Really just speaking right now that should scare the crap out of you to go and vote. But hey, here he is.
All these kids you're seeing in the streets, the MK Ultra, it only takes like an hour. They have it down to an art. They have it down to a science. They will fragment your mind into 100 pieces. And each piece is separated with a disassociative wall of amnesia. So they can program each piece. The programming's in you. She said, when you see Hillary or the Queen wearing purple, that's end of the world programming. If they're wearing green, it means this. If they put out something in verbatim, like on Twitter, it activates the codes. Some may be assassination codes. Some may be other codes. She says, she says they're doing it in daycare. They're doing it elementary, junior high, high school. Churches are doing it.
Oh, sweet Jesus. The churches are doing it. The churches are off base. That can't be true. Oh, no. Satan, the Antichrist, it's all happening. It is the end times because of, good thoughts on the protesters, and I like how detailed he gets. Like, I feel like that's like, to have a good conspiracy theory, you need to have like just random details that no one is asking for. Like, they're doing this, but they have layers between it because those layers are like amnesia. And they can be, if the Queen wears a color or if a person says a thing on a Twitter. See, my question is this. So, Mark, like, I know you're worried about this, but like, honestly, within me, I would be like the guy that should figure out, like, dude, so if I wear like purple, it's going to make liberals go insane? What? See, that's Mark. Yeah, that's honestly, if you were the intellectual giant you thought you would be, come on, parlor tricks. You have to at least be kind of owning the libtards at least a little bit, right? But yeah, well, I guess he's worried he's going to get the MK Ultra version on his brain. But yeah, praise Jesus. Yeah, because I can try to make up BS for as long as I can, but their BS, it's the best BS. You just can't fake it. It's just top choice meat. It is the cream of the crop. It's beautiful. And I mean, on the exact same vein, I mean, it is fantastic how these two men, they like speak about the same events, but they speak about it from a very different spiritual depth and realm. And I mean, we can't all be experts in every realm of the spiritualness of what. Yeah. Lance Wallenow. Lance is a pastor. He's on Trump's spiritual council, so he's that kind of a pastor. But he does want to warn us about why Black Lives Matters has really turned into, when Black Lives Matters protests, it's really just, let me just go ahead and have him say it, because I just won't do it justice.
At the core, when they have the ritual incantation of, repeating names and say my name and that it actually is rooted in a form of mysticism, which is spirit summoning of the ancestral dead. So what you have is a form of spiritism, which is really witchcraft, which is woven into the foundation of the summoning of the ancestors spiritually, which is summoning the dead. This is the theology that is woven into the roots of BLM, so that when you see the in front of Trump Towers, or when you see a whole boulevard in Washington, this is almost like a Babylonian siege engine that's being set up by what I believe is a spiritism.
So those were words. Some of those words connected together to form clauses and make sentences. Some of them just kind of hung out there in the ether. So they were just kind of words So Black Lives, the protesting is people doing spiritual chants because they are, what? Like sometimes the funniest thing is Christians are like the most pagan motherfuckers out there. Like, what? And you believe this? And like superstitious pagan motherfuckers. And ooh, is Matthew Distefano gonna be mad at me? Because I just told him, hey, buddy, I'm fine if you swear on the show. Just keep it to a minimum because I'm a lazy editor. It's a true story. Swearing takes time. But swearing is also caring. So I'm willing to give that time. But Matthew was a good boy, as you'll see. And he's going to be very mad that I probably contributed more to the swear jar than he did on the show. Sorry, Matt. In advance, sorry! But moving on to our last bit of Christian crazy, I'm going to unleash to you Mario Murillo. First time in the Christian crazy. So Mario is, he is going to be a new star here, because right off the bat, if you need to know what he's he's all about end times crazy BS. So yes, Mario, cut us off a slice of some of that spiritual junk food and crack.
All right, what we've got in the Democrat Party is atheism, late-term abortion, destruction of marriage, socialism. Now, let's talk for a moment. Do you really believe this is about Trump, folks? Look in the camera at me, at Mario Murillo. Do you really believe they hate Trump? No, they don't. They hate you. They hate Christianity.
So when I look in the mirror, it's because I hate Christians. I hate myself. Oh, this would have solved years of therapy. It's not my hate for Trump. I just hate myself. That's what it is. And let's not forget, folks, Trump put a stank on Christianity that isn't going to scrub off anytime soon. He didn't lead to the toppling of American Christianity. He just kind of put his fat ass on it, and it just fell off. Just fell off like his first 2 marriages. But hey, let's move to hopefully more stable ground here. Let's get out of the Christian crazy and get more into talking about, I don't know, maybe we should talk to someone who's a heretic, someone who's an apostate.
Aye, Captain!
All right, I'm here today with Matthew Distefano. Matthew is like one of these interesting multi-hyphenate people out there. You're author, hip-hop artist, prolific podcaster, if that's probably fair to say, because I feel like you have like 30 or so of your own podcasts, I'm pretty sure. You're also a social worker. What else am I missing, Matthew? What else am I missing in your resume?
No, in the resume, that's fine. I work out a lot too. I like gardening. I'm an eclectic person.
You're an eclectic person. Okay, well, good. Yeah. I think you're going to be at home here on the show. But thanks, man. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate you and appreciate your time. So here's first question I ask every person that's on the show, regardless. This is a timeless question, absolutely timeless. So, are you planning on voting twice in the election coming up?
If I lived in North Carolina, I guess I would, but. No, isn't that where he said we have to?
Yes, and that is where I am right now as well, too.
Oh,
so yes.
Okay. Well, I'm in California. They don't allow that out here. I figured they didn't allow that anywhere, but I'm not a political philosopher.
No, that is true. This is the South, but yeah, you assume a lot of things happen in the South that probably don't happen in normal places. But no, I don't think that's a thing here either. Though that was just that was one of those fun things yesterday that I was like, what the hell? As we all do, living in Trump's America.
Yeah, I had to do a double take. So
yeah. It's the new normal, which is never normal. But I've got you on here, and I want to talk to you about a bunch of stuff. But you are Matt. I first knew you from the Heretic Happy Hour, and now you've got a new show out, a new podcast, Apostates Anonymous. So give us like a nutshell, Apostates Anonymous. Like, who is this for?
It's for anyone who likes the Heretic Happy Hour, obviously. But it's for anyone, I think, who is searching and is not taking themselves too seriously. I poke fun of a lot of things. First and foremost, myself. I think everyone's taking themselves too seriously these days. But at the same time, I like to talk about serious things. But I want to do it a little bit tongue-in-cheek and with a little bit of humor in mind. So anyone without a stick up their butt, I guess one could say. In the Christian world, things are a little bit too serious a lot of times, and you can't really joke around. I don't even know if I consider myself a Christian any longer. So I'm just playing around with the name like apostate. I've been called so many things so many times, heretic, apostate, hence the name of 2 of the podcasts that I do, that I like to use that in my branding. It's kind of like the 2004 Red Sox, who called themselves the Idiots, and then they went on to win their first World Series in 80 years, or 86. As a Red Sox fan, I should know that. So it's kind of for those folks. It's for folks who are seeking, with folks who are okay with challenging their beliefs, folks who are okay with not okay with the status quo, I should say.
And how have you arrived? Because it's not like necessarily you're going to come out as an apostate. You don't just like declare, I therefore now I'm an apostate. I'm a full. So yeah, how like in kind of a nutshell, like what led you to that place? Because again, like people that listen to the show, we're like a lot of the folks around here are folks that have become, well, on some spectrum, maybe like disgusted with Christianity or just disengaged with Christianity. But yeah, but specifically for you, like what led you on that path towards being a beautiful apostate?
I don't know about beautiful, but it's all subjective. It's been a long and windy one, as anyone who has challenged their belief system growing up probably has discovered. I've always been a questioner. I've always been enamored with philosophy, critical thinking, and reasoning, and asking like the big existential questions. Why are we here? What's going on? Is this really the truth? Are we sure? And when I got into my 20s and then in my 30s, I continued to ask these questions and nuance them even more. And I've also got like an iconoclastic type of disposition. Like I like to challenge the status quo. I like to say, I don't want us to be comfortable. Because I think when we get comfortable, we just get kind of stuck and stagnant. And so I asked all those kind of hard questions with pastors, with people I played in worship teams with. And I found out that people either weren't thinking about these things like I was, or they were just like okay with where they were at, and I wasn't. So it kind of led me down this path that a lot of people go through. Like I became an agnostic, and then I was kind of like on the atheistic sort of thing, and I was watching debates by Hitchens and Dawkins, and they were winning debates, and I didn't like that. But at the same time, I kind of had to use my critical thinking brain and say, well, it doesn't seem like all these answers that I had growing up are really holding up. And then you find out that there's people who believe in God who don't have like the same theology as the Westboro Baptist Church or something, or who wouldn't vote for Trump blindly and say, oh, this is our guy. He's like King Cyrus. God sent him. And, oh, I can affirm homosexuality, or I don't like using that term any longer, LGBTQ community, and still believe in God. My goodness, like what a novel concept. So, it takes a lot of digging. It takes a lot of due diligence. It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. People use the analogy that you're in the desert, that you're in the ocean drowning. And that seems appropriate to some degree.
Yeah, it can be a very lonely place, especially. And I've been through this. I've had especially friends that I'm even like talking to now. I feel like going through this that are part of the church world, where it becomes a very, very lonely place when you have established this as your community, and you begin asking the questions to where they're like, no. This is not this is not the place for those questions. This is a place for blind certainty, but questions, I'm not sure about that. And it is. It's huge. It's not simply just running away. Because of an intellectual pursuit. As you're moving towards that intellectual pursuit, it's losing community, and that's very, very difficult for people. Now, did you have any of those kind of moments? Maybe not a come to Jesus moment, but a come away from Jesus moment, or I'm trying to think of something along those lines. A big aha moment that really helped thrust you forward.
I mean, a lot of it was. I wish that it was almost like a Damascus Road event. I mean, it makes for a great story. I feel like I had a lot of little ones. A lot of them had to do with intellectual stuff. I for some reason, had to have the intellectual answers. I had to have an answer of, if there is a God, are a bunch of people going to hell or not? I needed to know, like, I don't need to know with certainty, but I need to know that I'm safe. I need to know that I'm okay. And I need to have an explanation for all these verses in the Bible that tell me I'm not. So I had many of those, thinking about things and reading a bunch of books from philosophers and theologians and things like that. But I have had many, how should I put it? Experiences of God that I sort of keep to myself, because I think those are deeply personal. I don't talk about them a lot. And I don't think that we can honestly talk about our experiences of God to any degree that wraps the whole thing up in a nice package with a bow. I think sometimes our experiences of God, which are complete bliss, complete joy, complete peace, kind of transcends our ability to articulate. Mm-hmm. And so I've had those, but I struggle for the words to describe them.
But I think that's the beauty for those times too.
Yeah.
And I think it is, because I think too often do I hear, especially in the Christian world, where we try to, I had this, so this proves this, as opposed to, no, this just really tore a hole in my soul, and that's what I needed right now. And it was awful and beautiful all at the same time, but it will mean nothing to you if I try to make it and put it in some sort of a weird box. And actually, when we put them in weird boxes, it kind of just makes it dirty, is really kind of how I feel about it. But in one of your, talking just about like deconstruction, you said this in one of your recent podcasts. And it's something I thought of, but oftentimes there's always people that will put words to thoughts you've had that you're like, oh, wait, that is so much more succinct. That's so much more clear. And you were talking about this idea of being an atheist to your own theology, or something along those lines too. And I wanted you to speak to that, because I think that's a huge I think that's a huge shift and a huge idea that we need to be able to walk through. And I feel like I've stumbled through this, but I love the way that you are articulating it. So I wanted you to kind of just speak a little word vomit on that.
Yeah, well, I first would have to give a shout out to Jeff Turner, who talks about this a lot. I am of the belief, and I'm convinced of this at this point in my life, that when we talk about God, we're really talking about our theology. And too often, unless we've really worked it out and really sat with it, I think that the theology we're given is not something that we have really allowed to play out in the real world. And so if you're given a theology at 5, if you're told this is the worldview, this is the Christian worldview, this is the biblical worldview, whatever the case may be, we develop these ideas before we can really think about them critically. And so we end up worshiping our own theology. We don't end up allowing ourselves to experience God. And so I think we have to allow that God, which is just our concepts of God, to die so that we can then experience God, rather than, because a lot of times we project our own self onto divinity, and we end up just like worshiping an idol, which is like a psychological projection. I forget who said the phrase, and maybe you know it. God made us in our image, and we've returned the favor ever since. It sounds like something Richard Rohr would say, but it's probably someone like that. I don't recall who.
I don't either. But I've heard it 1,000 times too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's what we do. And I think in order to experience the true bliss of God, we need to allow our preconceived, presupposed God concepts to go the way of the dodo. We need to kill those gods.
But it's difficult. It's difficult to do.
Very difficult.
When we're raised in it, we're surrounded in it. We're taught to fear it. And we're even told, well, you may fear this, but if you break this, this will happen to you. You know, it becomes this weird, like, I don't know, very Machiavellian kind of like, it just moves in a weird direction to where fear, control, shame, guilt. I mean, it was, why I appreciated the way that you were articulating that was I'd heard it too, something on the other side of it from Pete Rollins before, where Pete kind of talks about the pursuit of God, that most of us never actually pursue God. We're pursuing what we want from God. So when we say like we want to know God, we don't want to know God. We don't come at this like, God, I want to know you. It was more like, God, I want something from you. Or at worst, God is like Santa that we want to go sit on his lap and say, give me.
Yeah, I think Rollins's pyrotheology plays a lot into that.
No, I love that guy. Well, speaking to you, and I know that everyone's journey of deconstruction is different. You talk a lot about that. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different. It's going to smell different. It's going to be different. But for you, is there something that you wish? Is there something that you've discovered later in life that you wished you knew before?
I wish that, well, so many things, because I've learned from my mistakes and I've made many. I wish that I knew or understood that my identity is not my beliefs, that in order, I think, to have a healthy spirituality, we should not hold on to our beliefs with white knuckles. We should hold them loosely, because I wish everyone knew this. Because the minute you start to challenge anyone's beliefs or your own beliefs is the minute you kind of go into an existential tailspin. And if we didn't tie up our identity with our beliefs, I think we could avoid a lot of pain and suffering.
No,
I also wish that when I was first questioning, I did things a little bit behind the scenes, because I could be a little bit, how should I put it? Forthright about what I feel and what I'm thinking, and sometimes that rubs people the wrong way.
Well, especially people that are not used to people that are kind of a community where questioning is bad.
Right.
Questioning is not a good thing too. It gets suspicion happens very quickly.
Yes.
Why are you asking this question?
Right. What's your angle? What's your agenda?
Reading? What have you been watching?
Right.
What is wrong with you? Well, again, speaking like to your younger self too, is there like a book that you wish that you had read earlier? And maybe it's one of your own too. I don't know.
No, it's not my own. I wish I read Rene Girard a lot earlier. I had a real big problem with the violence or so-called violence of God that I really, really struggled with. And had I understood that I can approach the Bible much differently than the evangelical fundamentalists said I needed to approach the Bible, which was really the only way to approach the Bible, according to them, I think I would have less gray hair, if you can notice. That was a big problem for me. And having Girard as an anthropological lens to view things has been really helpful to my intellectual needs. And it doesn't necessarily help in terms of experiencing God or any of that. But I needed to unlearn all those things and learn those about all these things are like these mimetic projections onto the divine. So I needed to unlearn all that before I can just experience God.
Yeah. And it's a difficult place to get to, that place where you are just kind of unloading. Taking your pack or taking everything out and just dumping it out and just being kind of vulnerable and naked and saying, all right, what have I learned? What do I want to carry with me? What do I want to just trash and burn and just leave 10 miles behind? So for you continue to write, you continue to do music, you continue to do podcasts, many podcasts as well too with that. But what is driving you? What continues to drive you?
Honestly, I think it's just understanding that human beings are creative. We're creative as hell. And I think all of us would create something, whether it was music, poetry, painting, carpentry, if we understood how creative we're supposed to be. And I've just leaned into that and been like, okay, I think we're designed to be super creative. And so I'm going to lean into that and just try to create as much as I can. And when you are able to understand that it doesn't seem like work, although some days do, like when you're editing a book or when you're staring at a screen, editing audio, it could get tedious, but at the same time, like the meta narrative, the story is like, I really want to create this. And I'm a bit of an OCD with perfectionist. Like I want it to be fine-tuned and detailed, and you just end up loving what you do when you create things. And I think that's just leaning into how we were, I hate saying this, designed. Yeah.
But within you too. Okay, so I like that. I like that because yes, you are a very creative person. What is the goal of a lot of this? Because I feel like sometimes we come to a place, and maybe it's not the same for you. And so correct me on this. That we have come through a place that has maybe it's been a hard-earned place that we have arrived at, or some hard truths that we have learned. And part of that, at least for me, a lot of times, is that drive to also tell people you're not crazy. And it's almost like having like an open source theology, like where you're just kind of being open with yourself in front of others, being able to say, I don't have this crap figured out. I don't know anything here, but I'm wanting to do this in front of you because, at least for me, growing up in like fundamentalist conservative areas, openness was not a thing. Right. So being able to have that. So yeah, what is it like? Are you wanting to help others that are out there that are in the same place? Are you continuing to also just be an explorer in your own faith? I mean, yeah. What pushes that? What is that book that pushes you?
I think it's a lot of those things combined. I don't want to sound like a false piety type of person by saying like I just want to help people, but I want to see like humanity as like a true community. Like I want to see the earth restored. Like I want ecological justice. Like I want things to be clean. I want people to have clean water. And I think a lot of times our beliefs get in the way of that, whether it's our beliefs about politics, whether it's our beliefs about religion. And if we could understand that, I think we could have a much more beautiful existence with each other. I really just want to live in the Shire because I'm a hobbit in all but size, to quote Tolkien. I was about to say, yeah. Yeah, I'm a 6'4" hobbit. Okay. I really do. I for some reason, something inside of me really wants us to be able to live at one with each other and with the planet. And so that drives a lot of it. And, I have a daughter, I have a 4th grader. I want her to not have to worry about climate change, like wars, disease, famine, all this kind of stuff that bad stuff's going to happen. Yeah, there are going to be problems, but if we could, a lot of them are exacerbated by our own politics, our own infighting, our own tribalism. It just repulses me. You know.
And so you're in California. So are you in like the land of hellfire and brimstone right now? How is it where you are? How is it where you're at?
Fine right now. The town I went to high school with burned down a couple years ago. I don't know if you know the name Paradise, California. It was like the largest town to ever burn down in a fire. It's like the worst fire ever. We're actually going to hopefully be building a house there in like a year. So we're in kind of the midst of it. Every year is fire danger. We've had some around us this year. We've had a bunch of smoke, obviously. Where I live right now, it kind of sits in a valley. So the smoke just kind of sits on us like a blanket. But yeah, no danger from actual fire at this moment.
Good.
But yeah, we did have a fire NATO a couple weeks ago.
I saw that in the news, yes.
Like, oh my goodness.
I was like, that is at one sense, you're kind of just like tipping your hat to the absurdity of 2020 at some point. I'm like, fire tornado, awesome. Okay, so but then getting back to this, so actually just a really abstract question. So you can pop not even that deep, or it could go deep if you want to, but what would be one thing when we kind of look across the landscape or the hellscape of modern day Christianity right now, is in your mind, if a lot of like institutionalized churches or the way that people hold the Bible or whatever today, if there's like one thing that you think that you could change, again, we're just in the hypothetical universe, one thing that you think that would change that would pay off like dividends.
One thing in the Christian world.
Yeah, that you think could change a lot.
Well, we've gone deep for most of the answers, so I'm going to not go as deep. Music.
Music. Okay. Say more. I love it.
I played worship music for 12 years or so. 99% of it is garbage. Lyrically, it's so contrived. It sounds fine, like Hillsong. I mean, it's in key. It's melodic. They're fine players. But it's so uncreative and it's so forced. And we don't need any more analogies of God or Jesus as a waterfall or some sort of weather event. Case in point, I don't know if you know the band Emery. Their lead singer, I think, is a Bad Christian podcast. I think this is the story. Wrote a song as a satire about this, and it became like in the top 20 for Christian Billboard charts. He wrote it in like 30 minutes, recorded it real quick, all satire, and it took off. And it's like, okay, it's so bad. Thankfully, like I wasn't raised in with the mindset that I had to listen to Christian music only. So I branched way out and I went to school for music at a state school. So I was exposed to the world's music, and thank God for that. But it's so bad. I mean, no more 6/8 timings worship songs. Get them out. Done.
That fixes everything. It will fix everything. And you being in California too, I'm curious about this because I was I lost a friend this last week from I was an ass online to him because he was some church that was doing like an outdoor worship service with people packed in with each other, and because they were debuting a new song. And it was like, and everyone's like, oh, praise God, this is wonderful. And I was like, oh, this is the most beautiful super spreader event I've seen. You should be so happy for yourself. That didn't go over well. But I mean, are you around like any of that? Because I know there's a bunch of churches like MacArthur. There's a bunch of other ones in California that are trying to flout the whole don't be an a-hole and show up in church because God doesn't care about this, but we do.
I'm in Northern California. I'm close to Oregon. We've had some local churches that became super spreaders. There was one in a town called Oroville that I think caused a bunch of people to get it, but that was back in, I'm going to just guess April or May. It's been a while.
Okay.
I think churches are doing that. I've seen like the church signs, which is another, okay, to add to my list, get rid of your church signs. Most of them. But some of them are okay, but that have been saying wear your mask and all this stuff. So I don't know how much it's going on in here. I do know some people that have stopped wearing masks now if they can, and even bragging about it at stores and stuff like that. And they are church people. And I don't know how wearing a mask becomes either politicized or religiousized, if that's a word. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, what hit me was, and I haven't really fully like done the math in my head, mainly because I'm lazy. But they had an article that was saying like that I think it was 30% of Republicans are QAnon believers. So, if you do the math within that, you're like, well, that's they're mainly evangelical conservative Christians, So within that, there's a fair amount of Christians looking for their new God, apparently.
It's 30% for real?
They said 30%. It was like it was Newsweek. They said 30% of
Okay.
Yeah. You're just like, huh?
Yeah, we got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, we do. It's reconciliation's a bitch.
Yeah.
So on the heels of that, as we're kind of closing this out, I just wanted to know, top of your head. So first thing, what is one thing that gives you hope right now in the world?
Is the pause like telling? The hope is that there's so many more people who aren't as vocal and loud as we hear from. I think we tend to hear the most obnoxious, loud stories, whatever they are. Like take the protests, for instance. Like you hear these bombastic things about violence and rioting, and there is some of that. But then you see these like thousands of people that are peacefully protesting. We don't hear that because we just love sensationalized stories. And it's kind of boring just to watch people peacefully have a vigil or something. This is America. We do things big. Right. So I have hope that for the most part, the people that are, decent people, they're just quieter and not making the news. But most of us are in that ballpark.
I hope so too.
Now, I hope so.
Now, okay, fine. So screw this idea of hope. So that was too tough for you. I'll ask you the easy.
Very difficult.
Is there one thing that now it'll be hard to focus? I'm gonna have to get you to focus. You're like laser like focus on this one. What is one thing that is pissing you off the most right now?
The most right currently?
Yeah, currently, yes.
It's the interpretation of the CDC report that only 6% of the people really died from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. My wife's a nurse. My brother-in-law's a radiologist. I've been talking to these folks. I worked in the medical community. I do social work, so we're closely tied in. I have a lot of friends who are doctors and nurses. If I could say one thing to these people, you don't know how to interpret the data. And just because only 6% had COVID only listed, it's kind of like HIV. You don't die of AIDS. You die of pneumonia after your immune system's wiped out. So think of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
If COVID's listed alongside respiratory failure and cardiac arrest, you died from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't die in spite of it. Okay. So just because the data says something, we need to learn how to interpret data.
Yes. Or also, I just think trust people that know more than us.
Yes.
That have been through years and years of school.
Right.
But yes, you are absolutely right. That is... yes, that's so frustrating that there's like large swaths of the population that somehow just seek to look to something to I told you this was not a thing. Deaths, well, those people in body bags, no, but I want to be right here. Yeah, we get caught up in that BS. Okay, so all right, how can people stalk you? Have people want to find your stuff? People love it. What is the best way, or many ways? This is the shameless promotion part of the show right here. So yes.
Oh, this is when everyone stops listening to the podcast. Well, I have a website called allsetfree.com. That is where you can get all my books, essays. You can link to my podcasts and things like that. I'm on social media, obviously, because you have to be these days if you want to talk about yourself and your work. As much as I hate it sometimes. So Instagram at MJ_Distefano. At Twitter at the same handle. If you just look me up on Facebook, you'll find me, Matthew J. Distefano. And yeah, check out Heretic Happy Hour, Apostates Anonymous, and the Bonfire Sessions. And those are my 3 podcasts.
Awesome. So all right. So are there any final words of wisdom that you have to bestow upon us?
Yeah, wear a mask.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
You're not losing your freedoms if you wear a mask.
That is true.
You're protecting other people. Don't be selfish. Think of it like drunk driving. You're not losing your freedom because we don't let you drive drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Putting others at risk. I know it sucks. I don't like wearing a mask either. My daughter can do it, and she's 9. She's very mature, but you're an adult. Wear your mask.
Absolutely. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time. So yes, if anyone is looking for great content out there, we have Apostates Anonymous with Matthew, Heretic Happy Hour, allsetfree.com, bonfire sessions as well too, books on Amazon. So Matthew, thank you so much for your time, man. Thanks for being here. That's all I've got this hour. Much again, thanks to Matthew Distefano. And I'll leave you with this, just a bit of pop liturgy from the Killers song, Be Still. Be still, wild and young. Long may your innocence reign, like the shells on the shore. And may your limits be unknown. May your efforts be your own. If you ever feel you can't take anymore, don't break character. You've got a lot of heart. But like I say on the end of every show, go out, be amazing, be yourself, be what the world needs in your space. So I send you out with the holiest amount of grace and snark and peace. I am out of here. I'll catch you guys again next week. Peace.